Governor Hochul is looking to reform New York's bail reform. It's been hailed by progressives as a more just form of justice, but criticized by moderate Democrats, many Republicans, and police.
There's a problem for law-abiding citizens that are out there in these streets, on these roadways, that are less safe because of, quote, bail reform.
The fact that we're going backwards and trying to roll it back through the governor and other elected officials is not only racist, but it is anti-Black.
The New York Times says it obtained an internal memo detailing the governor's bail reform plan, which would be part of the state budget proposal. Good afternoon. I'm Doug Embledge.
And I'm Natalie Kutchko. Ginny is off today. The plan would allow for bail in more cases and give judges more discretion in setting bail based on a defendant's criminal history. But the governor is risking of legislative leaders who championed these reforms in 2019. Chase Howell got reaction from both sides today. Chase.
One side argues the current guidelines for bail reform is causing more harm than good to communities. The other side says bail reform is protecting communities from being targeted. Bail reform could be getting a reboot. The New York Times detailing a 10-point plan to restrict who is and isn't eligible for bail. It would give judges more discretion on deciding if a person should be detained on bail. Judges will look at a person's criminal history and whether or not they're harmful to others when making that decision.
You can't say for sure, this person is going to go and shoot somebody today as soon as they walk out the courthouse. Why are we keeping them in prison? Why are we keeping them incarcerated?
Sheriff Thomas Doherty with the Livingston County Sheriff's Department thinks the opposite. He says judges are elected officials and should be able to make bail decisions.
I think that's a key issue that New York State should absolutely allow judges to look at the safety aspect for the community at large.
The plan would also make more gun-related offenses and gun traffickers bail eligible. But Herbert doesn't think that's the answer.
All the effort that the governor and other elected officials are putting into looking into how to put more people in jail, they can look into how to get more resources so that these guns or crimes or things isn't necessary because people have the things that they need.
Sheriff Doherty didn't disagree in 2019 when elected officials called for changes, but he believes the reform still isn't solving problems.
You said there's a problem. We agreed there's a problem. The solution didn't solve the problem, though. The solution just changed the public safety aspect of we'll just release more people and not have any type of consideration for how dangerous they are, community impact, past criminal history, et cetera, et cetera.
We did reach out to the governor's office for comment, and she released a statement saying, in part, she does not negotiate in public and that she looks forward to working toward a budget that best serves New Yorkers. The governor's state budget is due by April 1st.
And the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority are forming a plan to help create more new jobs in green energy. As Dalton Williams shares with us now, one local renewable energy company feels this proposal could really hurt them. Dalton?
Yes, Natalie, part of the state's plan would be to use a standardized apprenticeship program to help train people in hopes of getting a job in the renewable energy sector. Something one local company says is a big change for them. Kirk Golden, the general manager of Ecovis Group Incorporated, a local solar panel company, says his company has been working for years now to train new employees, but could now be forced by the state to switch to a new apprenticeship program. The switch he supports, but says is happening too fast.
They would prefer more of an apprenticeship program, which I think is great. I would love to see an apprenticeship program, but we need time and resources to set those up.
Golden says the change would hurt small businesses that haven't had this program in place for long periods of time, instead favoring larger companies that have already had experience with this program.
We're put out in the cold when we did what we were supposed to do by the state. The whole thought was low cost, high volume. Well, guess what? We got low cost, no volume. So it crushed some of the companies, especially upstate.
In addition to the new training program, the plan says bids for large renewable energy construction projects would need to meet certain wage standards. This is something his small business might not be able to keep up with.
We're under intense inflationary pressures right now. Everybody sees that when you go to the store and you try to buy milk, bread, and butter. It's just those tabletop issues. What's going to happen to us is it's going to be harder to bid projects. It's going to be harder to make projects viable.
And at the time where inflation is high, Golden says he's having to contemplate some major decisions.
we have that to compete against. The only thing that we can do is move from New York State. And I've lived here all my life. I'm not looking to go out and lobby and change the rules. I just want the rules fair.
We reached out to NYSERDA for a comment. They said they plan to issue a statement, but as of right now, I have not heard anything back.
Volunteers from Rochester returned home today from a 2-week mission in Ukraine and Poland. And as Natalie Kuchko tells us, they were able to connect with an 11-year-old from Ukraine awaiting adoption by his host family here at home.
Doug, it had been several long days for the Nowicki family from Hamlin, unable to reach the 11-year-old they hosted from Ukraine and now plan to adopt. Since then, he's been moved to safety in Poland, where a local nonprofit began their relief efforts.
So it's been huge that he has been moved to another country. Obviously, he's now out of harm's way, and he's able to start looking at taking in normal life again.
A sense of relief for the Nowicki family of Hamlin. Their host child, 11-year-old Alexei of Ukraine, now moved to safety. A step forward in giving him a permanent home in the U.S. They also got to connect with him for the first time in days.
Hi, love you.
Cameron Knob of Hilton was with Alexei at the time of that call. He co-founded Guardians of Hope, a Rochester nonprofit. For the last 2 weeks, he's been on the front lines helping provide relief to the people of Ukraine.
Initially, we were only planning to go for 2 or 3 days. But, one thing led to another. We were busy from the second we got there till the second we left.
The nonprofit raised $150,000 and has built a warehouse in Poland and Ukraine to store and distribute donations. Now that he's returned home, Knob says he's reflecting on his time spent overseas.
Now that we're back here in the States, it's kind of surreal, to think that, my family's here and we're safe and we're walking into Wegmans. But there's people over there that, they're not safe and their families are not safe. And it's kind of tough to balance all of that.
For Nowicki, she says she's unsure how much she'll be able to contact Alexei, but is still keeping her promise of adoption.
We have reassured him that we have not given up and we are doing everything that we can to try to get him home on a visitor visa in the interim while we try to finalize everything.
And while the timeline of Alexei's adoption remains unclear, the family is staying hopeful. Meantime, we're told Guardians of Hope plans to make a return overseas again in the near future to continue with their mission.